Hi, my name is Fernando Suarez with X-Men Magazine. I'm here with Porter Erisman, former CMO for Alibaba Group. You may know about Alibaba and the big emporium they are creating about or with e-commerce. So we want to talk about e-commerce and the opportunity that we foresee or that Porter Erisman foresee for these e-commerce strategies in Latin America and emerging markets. So thank you very much for being with us. Tell us a little bit about your new book, 6 Billion Shoppers, right?
Right.
What is the book about?
So, there's about 7.5 billion people in the world.
Yeah.
E-commerce for the first 20 years was focused on the US and Western Europe. And it seems that's what everyone was talking about with e-commerce. But there were really about 6 billion shoppers untouched by e-commerce up until recently. So my book is really talking about the fact that we're entering a golden era for e-commerce in emerging markets, and that these 6 billion shoppers who were previously inaccessible are now easier to reach because everyone now has a shopping mall in their pocket, the smartphone.
Yeah.
And if I'd said this 10 years ago, maybe you wouldn't have believed me that it's really coming. But all we have to do is look at the largest emerging market, China, and we can see that just last a couple weeks ago with their Singles Day, 11/11, $25 billion of products were sold in a 24-hour period. 90% of that was on a mobile phone. That's bigger than Black Friday, Cyber Monday combined. So the lesson is if we can look at the China experience and see that yes, e-commerce works in emerging markets, and we have 6 billion shoppers coming online as they get smartphones, this is the golden era. And so my book is talking about that landscape, how it's evolved, and then how people can take advantage of the opportunity.
There's a lot of companies, big companies, that are still not working on e-commerce platforms. They say, okay, that's going to come, but not yet because we're in Latin America and that's not happening. And I know that from very big companies. So what is your advice to these companies? How to really enter into the e-commerce world? And do I have to have an app to really outstand from the rest? Or I can work from my computer? What is your recommendations?
So in China, when I was at Alibaba, as e-commerce started to take off, I heard the same thing from big companies. They would say, e-commerce, that was great in the US, but this is China, it's different, and so we can wait and look at e-commerce later. Well, most of those companies are not around anymore. So what happens is that e-commerce in China, it took a path where it was very slow to take off because you're starting with an environment that has a very kind of underdeveloped infrastructure. It takes a long time for e-commerce infrastructure to be built, but once it's built, it's like a flip of a switch. Overnight, everything moves to online and now to mobile phones. So I would say to those big companies who are saying, I'll wait until it becomes important. If you wait, it's too late. And what people need to do now is imagine a world just starting from scratch and then build your business around that. Don't think of what I've done the last 30 years, 40 years, because there's not time to catch up once that shift happens.
Alibaba is a monster now. It's an impressive and unbelievable company selling billions and billions of different things to all over the world. And you worked there for 8 years. So what are your recommendations from working for Alibaba that every company or marketer should take and implement or do for their own companies?
Well, one of the things I'm saying here at the conference is to dream big, really big. I mean, the takeaway from me is number one, Alibaba, what was unique about it, Alibaba wasn't trying to be the biggest company in China.
They wasn't.
Or not even trying to be the biggest company in Asia. Jack Ma, the founder, said, we want to be one of the biggest companies in the world. And it's happened. Now the company is one of the top 10 in the world. But imagine if you met someone, Jack Ma was an English teacher when he started his career.
Oh, really?
Imagine, he taught English for 5 years as a school teacher, had no business experience. And so, of course, when he started, people thought he was crazy. Imagine someone or like imagine a farmer and outside of Oaxaca comes up to you, gives you a business card, says, I'm going to build one of the top 10 websites in the world, bigger than Facebook, Amazon, Alibaba. You probably would say, that's a cute ambition, that's nice, but we'll see. That's really what it was. So I would say dream big, really big. Don't just try to be necessarily the biggest in Mexico or biggest in Latin America. Why not the biggest in the world? And then never underestimate yourself. Jack Ma didn't have business experience. His co-founders didn't. What they had was focus on building something that really helped the customers, not just trying to make Wall Street happy for one day. And they worked as a team. Like every World Cup, there'll be some soccer team surprises everyone because the players aren't great. There's no standout, but they work as a team and they get very far. So I think that's the key. Work really well as a team and don't underestimate yourself, and then dream big and think beyond the borders of Mexico or even the region.
Okay, thank you very much. What about, I want to start an online business. I want to sell through e-commerce, but I don't know in which I have to focus in terms of logistics. It's about the technology for my app. It's about the social media to recruit new shoppers or customers. It's about my marketing, inbound, outbound, and I have a limited budget. So where should I start?
Yeah, the beauty of e-commerce, let's say you're a small retailer and you want to make a shop. The beauty of it is you don't have to invest in a big, expensive storefront on an expensive street. You basically just need to create an online presence or a mobile presence. The one thing you cannot do very well as a small retailer, you can't go out and solve all the problems of logistics or payment. Some of those things that depend on a big player like Mercado Libre or Amazon or Alibaba, they kind of solve those things on behalf of everyone. But what you can focus on is having a great storefront that has a lot of great appeal. You want to make it as if it's a better experience than going into a shop. You want to use all the tools available. And then the one thing some people forget about, and this is what we always trained our sellers on Alibaba, is the customer service is extremely important. Your reviews depend on that. It's not as if e-commerce you automate everything and you forget about it. The actual customer service, the follow-up, how you package something, whether you wrap it nicely, you include a note, whatever, that's really, really critical to stand out. And so just having the best possible mobile site or presence on a platform, letting other people solve all those other problems while you grow your business. And then the other thing I'd say is think beyond your borders. I mean, as you get bigger, now these 6 billion shoppers are everywhere. So you could be sitting in, outside of, let's say, Guadalajara with a little shop selling into China, because someone in China on a mobile app might discover your product, or someone in India. It's becoming more seamless, more cross-border. So just don't limit yourself based on where you are.
Okay, that's a very good advice for the people that are looking at us. Most of our audience are CMOs, marketing managers, marketing directors, and they are concerned about the future of marketing and, of course, technology. So when you combine IoT and AR, VR, and all these different Internet of Things, whatever, how do you see e-commerce growing or evolving in the upcoming years?
So I think there are two types of people. You mentioned CMOs are very nervous. Actually, there's two types of people when they're faced with change. There are those people who fear it and paralyzed by fear, and there are those people who embrace it and see the opportunity. I can tell you, I was from a marketing background. I was living in China, and I saw what an exciting opportunity to be alive now when you have more tools available to reach people. So the key is a mindset, is seeing change coming. There's always going to be change, seeing it and just embracing it, getting buy-in on it. And I think the most important thing is we know it's going to happen. It no longer has to be proven that this change, shift to e-commerce is coming. We can see it. So CMOs need to work with, the CEOs, the other senior management, to stress why it's so important, get buy-in, and then make really tough decisions early. What most traditional businesses do is they wait until it's too late. Sometimes it means you'll have to make tough decisions, let people go. But if you let 100 people go today and hire 100 people focused on e-commerce, then your whole company can survive, and maybe you rehire those people in the future. But you don't do anyone any good if you if you wait to make a tough decision and then 5 years from now your company is gone, then nobody's employed. So it means making tough decisions and embracing change and looking forward to it. Change is exciting, and people just need to embrace it with that mindset.
There are good companies and big companies now using the technology, and they say, okay, I have a very good amount of sales, books, shoes, whatever they are selling, but they are not having the right data, and they people is telling that data is the new oil. So what is your experience in Alibaba with data? How to manage with data? How to deal with data now that you have all these tons and tons of information every day?
Well, the interesting thing when I was at Alibaba is in about the first 3 years, we almost didn't focus on data at all. We were just focused on figuring out the platform. We would look at very simple things like a page views or unique visitors. We weren't tracking people through different aspects of what their online activities were. So actually in the very early days, which a lot of things are now, is that sometimes you can overanalyze. We brought in a data expert, a former bigwig at Amazon.
Okay.
He came in with all this amazing data and science basically for us, but we weren't ready for it. It's like trying to put a Rolls-Royce jet engine into a little hang glider. So start simple. You need to change and test and try new things. During that time, the data is not quite as important. It's more like the big strategic decisions. But then, over time, as the business matures and as the market matures, it becomes crucial. So that now for Alibaba, Jack Ma, I can never get him to pay attention to data in the first 3 years, and now he talks about it all the time because he sees the value of watching people's activity through the Alibaba ecosystem and using that data. But luckily in the early days, it's very important, but it's more important to just take bold steps and experiment, and then a couple years down the road the data becomes more important.
Thank you very much, Porter. Final recommendation for all the audience, CMOs, marketeers that we have in Exma Magazine, what should it be?
Yeah, I would just, reiterate my point, is just to dream big. I mean, we're at, in my view, the most exciting time. If you're in business, it's the most exciting time to be alive. Business is moving online, unlocking these 6 billion customers, and people can reach them in more ways than ever. And that's a very exciting thing. So to be a part of that change and pioneer it, rather than react to it, is the right way to approach it. That's what Alibaba did. It said, instead of waiting for the future to happen, let's go build the future. And that's what I think all the different audience members here hopefully will take away from it.
Where can we find your book?
So it's on Amazon, on other e-commerce platforms, and hopefully coming out in Spanish at some point too. Right now it's in English. Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for all of you, and thank you, Porter, for being with us.
Yeah. Thank you.